Greetings from Las Vegas. I'm Andy Iska with our weekly review of the major contests during the football season. We've got 5 contests overall to review and more information later about how to get additional and more detailed information on the individual contests that I will be reviewing. We begin each week with the Golden Nugget Ultimate Football Challenge. This is a contest that involves college and pro football selections combined. The contestants make 7 selections each week against a static point spread. They can use all college, all NFL, or a combination thereof. Through the first 6 weeks of the contest, there have been a total of 42 selections made. There is one leader who has gotten 29 out of a possible 42 points, earning 1 point for a winning selection against the point spread, 1/2 point for a push against the point spread, and 0 points if that point spread selection loses. 29 out of a possible 42 points works out to a percentage of 69% against the spread for the leader. There are 153 entrants in the contest, making a prize pool of 153,000. And as you can see on the graphic, 20 people plus ties will share in this prize pool. Now we'll turn to the 4 major contests that involve the NFL. The Super Contest at the Westgate Sportsbook has 2 significant contests going on at the moment. A third will beginning in week 10. That's called the Super Contest Reboot for those who want to join the contest festivities in mid-season. More about that in a few weeks. The 2 contests that have been going on since the beginning of the season include the Super Contest Classic and the Super Contest Gold. The Super Contest Classic began, I believe it was 1988, and has been running continuously since then, as the graphic shows. We'll get to that one in a moment. But the graphic for the Super Contest Gold has a $5,000 entry fee. Winner take all. This year's prize, $460,000 from amongst the 92 entries that have been submitted. We report on the contest each week as far as the consensus goes without taking a look at the individual teams that were involved in the consensus, because with 92 contestants, the consensus numbers don't really mean very much individually as far as the teams. They might have 30 or 40 at most out of the 92 contestants. That would be on a specific team. So we report on the top 5 selections each week, and as you can see, the selections are 14, 15, and 1, making 5 selections a week against the point spread, and that is a total of 30 selections that have occurred so far. And as you can see, the results very modest, barely over 50%. In fact, not even enough to break even at laying the 11 to 10 if you were to play those selections yourself, if you were going to tail the consensus selections for the Super Contest Gold. Through the first 6 weeks of the contest, that's 30 selections. The lone leader has 21 out of a possible 30 points. So that individual is doing well, total a percentage rather of 70%. And actually, for the entire field, 13 of the one of the 92 contestants, or entries, I should say, because entrants are limited to just one selection here. So these are 92 individual participants. 13 of the 92 contestants, or just about 14% of the field, are hitting at 60% or better. And that's a number you want to keep an eye on over the course of the season as the lines get tougher and the competition becomes a little bit more intense. That number generally will go down, but it's a good idea to just measure the performance of the field as a whole by looking at A, the consensus, and B, the percentage of the field that is hitting what is considered to be an extremely strong 60%. When you factor in the 11 to 10 VIG, that's an outstanding result. Those of us who have been around for many years know how difficult it is to hit and maintain a 60% success rate. Now we'll take a look at the Super Contest Classic. That's the original Super Contest that's been going on, as I mentioned earlier, since 1988. $1,000 entry fee. This year, 1,301 entrants, or entries, I should say. The actual number of participants varies each year. We don't have a number on that, but each individual is allowed this year up to 7 entries per contest, each with the $1,000 entry fee as noted. Here we do check the consensus results in a little bit more detail. Shortly, we'll provide some information on how you can take a look at further information. And for those of you who want to know, for example, the specific selections that comprise the consensus each week as far as the number of entries that are on that selection to get a feel for just how strong it was. And I'll have a little bit more about that when we get to our next contest. We'll provide that information shortly. But through the first 6 weeks of the 2023 NFL season in the Super Contest Classic, there have been 30 selections made. The consensus 17, 12, and 1. That's a little bit better than the, well, it's better certainly in the sense that it's showing a profit, better than the Super Contest Gold with 1,301 entrants. You would expect there to be a lot better success. And indeed, the leader of the contest, we'll get to that in a moment, hitting 66.7%, 23 out of a possible 30 selections. In the consensus, 17, 12, and 1, I mentioned that's 58.3%. For the past weekend, week number 6, there were a total of 2 winning selections. They were the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. 3 consensus selections lost, and those were the San Francisco 49ers, the New Orleans Saints, and the Indianapolis Colts. All those 3 selections lost. I can mention 628 were on the number 1 most popular team. That's San Francisco, and that's a little bit under half the field of the 1,301 entrants who laid the number with San Francisco. And I'll note that, again, these numbers are static. They come out at the Westgate Wednesday afternoons around 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and they don't change. And with the information that was unknown at the time as far as the official status of Deshaun Watson, the Cleveland quarterback, the contest line, which had been set at 7, actually went up to as high as 10 on the actual betting boards, closing at about 9.5 in most sports books. Thus, tremendous amount of value heading into the game, taking the San Francisco 49ers and laying a much shorter number in the contest than you would actually be laying at the betting windows. And of course, their 19-17 upset loss would not have affected the point spread result if that field goal was good, because they still would have won the game, but they would have won by 1, not the 8 or more that they needed to win by. More about that game when we talk about our next contest right now, the Circa Millions. Circa Millions began in 2019 as a competitor rival to the Super Contest Classic and the Super Contest Gold in terms of format. These 2 contests each carry a $1,000 entry fee. There are different formats, which I'll get to in a moment, but the Circa Millions format is virtually identical to the format for the Super Contest and Super Contest Gold. The distribution of the prize funds is a little different in the other 2 contests, as the graphic showed. In the Super Contest Classic, you had 30 contestants plus ties sharing in the prize pool, which included in-season contests, as does the Circa Millions, whereas the Circa Survivor is a winner-take-all, much along the lines of the discussed Super Contest Gold. In the Circa Millions this year, 5,274 entries were received. The contest provides a guarantee of $6 million prize pool. For the main contest, 100 entries plus ties share in the prize pool. There are 4 additional mini contests throughout the season included in the entry fee and in that $6 million guarantee, involving the best record for each of the 4 quarters. 2 of the quarters are 4 weeks long. 2 of the quarters are 5 weeks long. Again, the top 5 selections are reviewed. They are considered the consensus of the selections. And through the season, you can see that those are 15, 14, and 1, 51.7% success. The leader in the contest through the first 6 weeks, or the first 30 selections, is hitting an outstanding 24 of 30 possible points. That's 80.0%. That's another one we'll track how the leader is doing, as well as the number of contestants who are in the field hitting at least 60%. Currently, through 6 weeks, there are 887 of the 5,274 contestants who are hitting at 18 out of a possible 30 points or better, which is 60% exactly. And that's just shade under 17% of all entrants currently hitting 60%. Looking at the consensus selections for last week, much like the Super Contest Classic, the contestants were 2 and 3. Here again, the number 1 selection, The San Francisco 49ers in this contest, they were laying 7.5. The point spreads for the Circa Millions come out on Thursday mornings, Las Vegas time, around 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. So there's been about a 15-hour difference between the lines being released for the Super Contest on Wednesday afternoon and the lines being released for the Circa Millions on Thursday morning. And there have been noticeable line changes, not quite as noticeable as the 7.5 to 10. It was still 7.5 on Thursday morning. And again, a lot of contestants took advantage of the quote unquote value in laying 7.5 rather than what was on the actual betting board. A total of 2,240 of the 5,274 entrants. That's more than 40% of the field went down with the San Francisco 49ers. The other losers were the Indianapolis Colts and the Tampa Bay Bucks. The two winners, the Baltimore Ravens with their win and cover over Tennessee over in London, and the Cincinnati Bengals with their win and cover in their 17-13 home win over the Cincinnati Bengals, laying 2.5 in both contests as well. Finally, we get to what has become the most significant, the mostly covered, the most eagerly discussed contest in Las Vegas. I mentioned the Circa Millions came into existence in 2019, so this is the fifth year of that contest. A year later, they introduced the Circa Survivor, a last man standing, king of the hill type contest. This one involves no point spreads, just picking winners straight up. The caveats are A, you can only use a team once. And the other caveat is the contest runs 20 weeks rather than just the 18 weeks of the regular season. Thanksgiving week and Christmas week are split up to two different contest weeks where you've got to make a contestant selection rather on a small selection of games for Thanksgiving, Thursday, and Friday. And then if you're successful, the balance of the weekend, the Sunday, Monday games are included in the second half of that week. And in the Circa Millions Christmas week, the majority of the selections will be made for the games Christmas Eve, which is a Sunday, the 24th, and previous. And if you're successful in those 13 games, you advance to Christmas Monday, Christmas Day, where there are 3 games to be played. And contestants have to be careful that they have at least one and preferably 2 or more of the teams available when we get to Thanksgiving. And then roughly 3 to 4 weeks later, you have to have at least 1 or 2 selections, or you should have at least 1, preferably 2 available for the 3 games from which you must choose a team to win straight up on Christmas Day. This contest guarantees a winner-take-all prize pool of $8 million. They needed 8,000 entries to fully fund the prize pool. Unlike the Circa Million, where there was a shortfall because they only got the 5,200 out of the 6,000 needed, here they got 9,267 entries, creating a prize pool of $9,267,000, winner take all. As the graphic shows, through weeks 5, a significant portion of the field had been eliminated. Roughly 80%, 7,431 were eliminated heading into week number 6. Of the 1,836 contestants who were live in week 6 and had to submit a selection, 47 of those were eliminated. So a great week for form, a great week for the field, and despite the upsets, and I'll get to that in a moment to describe why it was such an unusual week with only 47 contestants or 47 entries being eliminated, that leaves 1,789 contestants, or entries rather, still alive heading into week 7. That's 19.3% of the original field. People like to discuss the imputed value of what an entry is worth, and that is basically you take the $9,267,000 winner-take-all prize, you divide it by the remaining number of entries, which is 1,789. That works out to each individual has an imputed current value of $5,180. So people who may be in a contest and may be looking to sell their selections or sell their living entry, their live entry rather, that's the value that they should get. And normally, if there are any negotiations or whatever going on, of course, for contest purposes, whoever is the contestant of record is the one who would have to submit those selections. But that doesn't mean they can't submit them on the behalf of someone else, especially because there are a lot of proxies involved, and you would make a connection with the proxy as far as providing those selections. Of the 47 contests or 47 entries that were eliminated, and it happens this every week or almost every week, for some reason or other, someone who paid the $1,000 entry fee did not submit a selection. There have been 7 or 8 contestants on a given week that might not have done it. This past week, week number 6, only one contestant failed to submit an entry. They were automatically eliminated. The two largest teams that were eliminated were two of the better teams in the league that you wanted to save, if possible, for the best possible spots, including playing on Thanksgiving or Christmas Day. The Philadelphia Eagles had 25 contestants eliminated. The San Francisco 49ers had 13 contestants eliminated. And again, you ask, why are these numbers so small, considering we had over 2,200 contestants lay the points with San Francisco in that other Circa Millions contest? Well, it's because one of two factors. A, they may have picked Philadelphia and or San Francisco as one of their selections in the previous 5 weeks, or B, part of their strategy was to save Philadelphia and San Francisco for those shortened weeks that come up later in the season. A lot of people use the strategy. In fact, one of the little tips we can share is that when you enter the contest, you very often take a look at the schedule. You have a list of the teams that you're going to play over the course of the season. Keep in mind that there are 20 selection weeks out of the 32 teams. That means there will be 12 teams that you won't need to pick. So the other 20 you can sort of stagger out over the course of the season by looking at the schedule and the perceived strength of the teams, because there are going to be some matchups late in the year where you may be having to go with non-playoff contenders if you have not accurately assessed significant changes in teams from one year to the next. Each year, if you take a look at historically the playoff field, for example, used to be 12, it's now 14 teams. It's roughly a little bit under 50% of that playoff team from one year makes the playoffs the following year. So don't take a look at the 12 teams that made the playoffs last year and think that 8 or 9 of them are going to return to the playoffs. More likely to be somewhere between 5 and 7. Now, it has happened where you've had a significant percentage return. I don't believe you've ever had anything like 10 or more of the 12 teams advance the following year. But that's part of the strategy, makes it what is as fun and exciting for the contestants, sometimes very frustrating, but also worthy of discussion as you head into your weekend of handicapping football on your own. You'll notice that there is a link in the description area that allows you to get more information about the details on the individual websites of the Golden Nugget, Circa, and the Westgate. And you will also be able to, when you click on the more part of that description, to also take a look at a tutorial where we go into actually the process of where to go on the website, so it makes it as easy as possible for you, the viewer, to go and check those that contest information, the standings, the full selections for everybody, the individual breakdown of the popular selections each week, including the top 5. They show the number of times that, at least for the Circa Millions and the 2 Westgate Super Contest selections, you can see the selections for each of the contestants, and you can see how many times each of the up to 32 teams was selected. Of course, I say up to 32 because with the bye weeks in there are several teams that won't be playing, and obviously they won't be getting selection. So that's the review for week number 6. We'll be back next week with a review of week number 7 as we are approaching very, very quickly the midpoint of what's been a fast-moving 2023 football season. Live from Las Vegas, this has been Andy Iskoe, and we look forward to speaking with you next week.